All right, the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who we are still learning about. I did feel a little bit better. I was on with Sean Spicer on his show yesterday, and we were talking about Mike Johnson, and I said, I'm going to be honest with you, Sean. I had to take a crash course in all things Mike Johnson because I wasn't quite sure who Mike Johnson was until the speaker's race came up, and he was like, it's okay, I don't think anybody knew who he was. And okay, if someone like Sean Spicer can say that, that's fine. So he sat down, Mike Johnson, sat down with Sean Hannity last night for his first interview, and I want to play a couple clips here and get your thoughts. I want to play first Mike Johnson talking about the potential of the United States now funding 2 wars with Israel and Ukraine, which is obviously what Biden wants all tied up into one package. Watch.
So they've got $78 billion. He wants another $61 billion. How will you deal with the issues that he wants to tie all of these issues together, which now gets into the budgetary process? Will you go issue by issue?
I told the staff at the White House today that our consensus among House Republicans is that we need to bifurcate those issues. I agree with your assessment in Ukraine, and that's why the American people are demanding some real accountability for the use of those dollars. Now, we can't allow Vladimir Putin to prevail in Ukraine because I don't believe it would stop there, and it would probably encourage and empower China to perhaps make a move on Taiwan. We have these concerns. We're not going to abandon them, but Israel is a separate matter. We're going to bring forward a standalone Israel funding measure over $14 billion.
Is $14 billion enough?
Well, Israel's requested a little less than that, actually. The White House did, by way of Israel, and $14.5 billion specifically is what we're looking at. It's a very specific number tied to very specific measures. But here's the important thing that distinguishes House Republicans from the other team. We're going to find pay-fors in the budget. We're not just printing money to send it overseas. We're going to find the cuts elsewhere to do that.
Oh, was that not a joke? I thought he was joking when he said they're going to find a way to pay for it in the budget and not just keep stealing your money and just
that'll never be the option because that's the preferable thing. It will be like, hey, how does this impact my pockets? And basically, you're deciding between 2 objectively bad things, right? It's like they keep stealing from you, and they're going to steal from you regardless, is what it is they're going to do. He's saying that, okay, we're going to make a cut elsewhere so we can still give them $14.5 billion in Ukraine. I have no idea what the number is. And again, people, you got to conceptualize that amount. I think we get so tied up in, like, we hear these numbers all the time, billions and trillions of dollars, and we become so numb to how much money that actually is. There's a lot of zeros that happen in a billion. You know what I mean? It's a whole hell of a lot of them. And they have no problem, of course, peeing it away, giving it to other people. And yeah, they can sit up here and say all day long that it's going to be tied to specific things. Look, man, when that stuff get out your hands, you don't know what the hell they're going to do. They're going to do with it. But the fact that these war efforts that happen in countries that have nothing to do with us is unfortunate, and it's not like my taxes are getting lowered because of this. In fact, out of this, it will become more, at minimum, it'll act effectively as a tax because the value of the dollar is going to continue to go down.
Yeah, Matt, I understand the purpose of being allies with another country. Like, I get it, and I would be more willing to stomach it, probably still not stomach it, but I would be more willing to stomach it if we hadn't have just spent billions and billions of dollars over in Ukraine, right? So now it's just like any talk of sending this much money to any foreign country, it makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, so I think it's important to realize that for government, for our government, where the Treasury is not just being rated, it's just continuously money's being printed, like we talked about last time. Money is a language, so what they're doing the first thing that they do when they say, I want to signal where we're going, right, is we need to send X number of billions of dollars over here. I mean, it's a language. It's a communication. It's their love language, really. I mean, it really is. It's like love and hate by whether we bless or curse and take away the flow dollars from America. And so, the first thing that these guys think of, Republican or Democrat, is we have to send billions of dollars. One thing that I kind of wondered is how much did Israel actually ask for, by the way,
Right.
I mean, we smother people with love too, because all the dollars come with us, holding the strings. So, can this new speaker, solve the problem that has snowballed into a national security crisis, as he himself said in his speech when he took the speakership? Okay, great. Let's see what he does. But I'm just very suspicious of politicians.
Yeah, I am too. Especially when, previously he had voted against funding Ukraine, and we talked about that voting record. Now, I will say he did use very specific language at the time that I talked about here. That he said, I don't want to sign on to this without us being able to see where the money actually goes. And so that was his reasoning for not voting for Ukraine spending. And now he said, just today, there was a headline that came out that said Speaker Johnson's Ukraine views have been, quote, evolving. And he was asked whether he supports more assistance to Ukraine. And he said, we all do, which I'm like, who's we? So when you say we all do, who exactly do you mean? Because I sure as hell don't. And I know at least a handful of those on Capitol Hill certainly don't. So is one of those like, who do you mean by we, sir?
Well, he's not. These guys aren't the ones. Look, this is basic capitalism, basic economics, right? The government, whether it be him or any of those other hacks, they do not have incentive to be responsible with money that they can just print out of thin air, right? So I know we want this pipe dream of a bunch of people that are going to be fiscally responsible, but they don't have an incentive to do so. And that's what the Federal Reserve, in combination with the Treasury, allows them to do. So what incentive do you have to say, look, because let's say, I say this as a business owner. When I'm looking at my bottom line, I'm looking at the amount of money that it is that we're spending versus the amount of money that we're bringing in. And I'm building out a plan for the year with my financials guys to make sure that we're on track. And if we're not on track, we make adjustments. That's not how and that's how most businesses operate, right? Mm-hmm. If you operate it like the government, and I would encourage you guys to go to the debt clock. You can just type that in Google. It's just constantly running in the red. The reason why that is the case is because there's no true incentive. They get your money regardless by two ways. One, direct taxes. Two, selling off assets of unborn people. And that's how you get debt, right? The government, with every budget it is that they look at, especially the fiscal one every year, right? They already account for, which is insane to me, right? Because no business operates like this. They say, hey, we're going to be operating at a deficit.
Right.
So American people conceptualize that. They already know, before it even gets to the point to where they're voting on it, they already have agreed we're not going to be able to account for this amount of money. Mm-hmm. And it's several hundreds of billions of dollars each time. And they still pass it. They still do. Very few of them, there's only like a legitimate, including the Republicans, a handful of them that will say no. Right? To every National Defense Act or all that. They'll say there's very few of them that will actually do it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that his thoughts on Ukraine are evolving, because it's not going to hurt his pockets, man.
Yeah. I will say, for the record, I mean, Kevin McCarthy was totally on board with the Joe Biden, ask of lumping Israel, Ukraine, Gaza, humanitarian aid to Gaza, and let's just cross our fingers that the bad men won't get it, and then our own border security. He wanted to lump that all in. McCarthy was fine with that. So, look, I'm like you, Matt. I remain cautious, but I would still say that this is better than a Kevin McCarthy. Right.
Well, I mean, look, so the one thing, the bone we can throw to him is...
I'm trying to make this positive, Matt. Help me.
I'm trying to help you. I'm going to help you.
Okay.
Here's what I offer, okay? I just want to say nothing, but what I offer is this. The guy had to make deals to get in there.
Right.
Any politician would. So what you hope is that in the midst of this morass, this mess that Eric was just describing, you get some people who know they're trying to do good for real.
Right.
And you gotta cut deals, and it was like, hey, you're gonna have to give a little bit on Ukraine. My views have evolved. Okay, that's fine. And then you're thinking, well, I'm in charge though, so I can actually moderate that. These are the thoughts that can never be expressed publicly, and you may not know what was being bartered or how it worked. So you have to give the benefit of the doubt to, to people in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you never know the kind of choices that have to be made, and you don't get the credit for it necessarily. So again, it's like, because we can be cautious, you can be cautiously optimistic as well, because the guy may end up doing some good. But we'll see. The idea that we can just know what's going on anymore, within the chambers of these places when there's so much corruption, it's hard. So we got to judge them by their actions.
Yeah.
If you like that clip, there is plenty more where that came from. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to the News and Why It Matters YouTube channel to watch the full episode.